It should come as no surprise that the recent unrest in Israel focused on the Temple Mount, the beating heart of the city of Jerusalem. For both Jews and Muslims, the Temple Mount is at the very epicenter of history and of national identity. This is in striking contrast to another mountain, to Mount Sinai. Let alone being unable to precisely identify the historical Mount Sinai, archaeologists and scholars can't even agree as to where they should be looking. Though typically we think of the Sinai as the desert north of Egypt, some scholars suggest that the historical Mount Sinai is actually more likely near what is today called Mount Karkon, which rises from the Negev in southern Israel. Still others suggest that Mount Sinai is more likely near what is today northwestern Saudi Arabia. In the book of Deuteronomy, Moses charges the Israelites, Zachar al tishkach, remember, do not forget the events that took place at Sinai. Moses is echoed by the words of Arthur Danto, the art critic and philosopher famous for a penetrating analysis of the Vietnam War Memorial in Washington, D.C. Danto wrote, "We erect monuments so that we shall always remember, and build memorials so that we shall never forget." He explained that monuments are about the past, and memorials are about the present. Monuments are how we mark what's indispensable to our identity, to our history. For example, the Washington Monument. On the other hand, a memorial speaks to an ongoing legacy in a more complicated, nuanced way. For example, the Vietnam War Memorial. The word zachor, remember, evokes like a monument a sense of identity. It asks us to look back to the past, to rediscover who we really are. But the words al tishkach, do not forget, challenge us like a memorial to reflect on the past, but focus on how it reverberates into the present. In 2017, a professor named Gary Shapiro argued that this distinction lay at the very root of the controversy New Orleans recently faced, as the city debated whether to remove statues depicting 3 Confederate leaders. When these statues were first erected, they were explicitly intended as monuments to the ideals of the Confederacy, including slavery and also white supremacy. But by 2017, with those ideals firmly rejected, Shapiro argued in the New York Times that those statues could not survive as monuments, but only as memorials, as witnesses to a deeply rooted, painful history that continues to impact us into the present. In the end, the very fact that extremists insisted on preserving these statues as monuments and not as memorials was why they needed to be removed. Jerusalem is more akin to a monument and Sinai to a memorial. Jerusalem is a place of origins. It's the lodestar towards which we orient ourselves. But Mount Sinai, on the other hand, was never allowed to become a monument, neither on the map nor even on the calendar. As opposed to the Temple Mount, still the most sacred site in Judaism, even 2,000 years after the temple was destroyed, Mount Sinai's sanctity dissipated immediately following the revelation of the 10 Commandments. As opposed to the temple whose history was so meticulously recorded in Scripture, the Torah does not explicitly state the actual date of the revelation at Sinai, nor even that the festival of Shavuot commemorates that event. The profound message is that Shavuot is not about who we were, but about who we are. That receiving the Torah is not something that we did, but it's something we continue to do. That the Torah itself is not something to zachor, to remember, to look back upon. It's al tishkach, something not to forget, something to engage with constantly through modern life in all of its complexity and its nuance. As a monument to 2 irreducibly different historical narratives, perhaps the Temple Mount cannot help but be a source of conflict and division. But perhaps through Sinai, which challenges us as a memorial, with complicated overlapping legacies, it may be possible with God's help to finally find common ground. Chag Shavuot Sameach.